So I introduce Amy Larkin. She describes herself as a radical environmentalist and a real collaborator. To illustrate this, she has a long history as a Greenpeacer, oh my, and as vice chair of a working group at the World Economic Forum. So she's someone that is able to stand between a few different environments. Her book, Environmental Debt, is a constructive attempt to help businesses and organizations understand what to do about all of this. So with that, Amy Larkin.
Hey. Good morning. What an incredible few days. We make the world, or we think we make the world. Business and culture and policy are drivers of the form and function of much of our lives. But make no mistake, nature is the actual boss. And we've been insubordinate too long now. In a room of insubordinate innovators, from one to another, I have to tell you, sometimes the boss must be observed. The form of today's wealthy, beautiful world does not align with the functions of supporting 7 million souls and the natural world. How do we align this form and function? We redefine profit, and we harmonize the rules of business with the laws of nature. In my book, Environmental Debt, I talk about how we cannot separate environmental and financial performance any more than we can separate mind and body. But today, there are global connections on this. When the Maya deforested their lands, which was the end of their civilization, if you lived in China or Europe, where there were great civilizations at the moment, you probably didn't even notice. It was imperceptible to you. Today, if there are extreme floods in Pakistan, there goes 10% of the world's cotton market. If there's huge pollution in China and the government decides to shut down the steel industry, that upends the entire world's economy. That's why we have to put this stuff on the books. And in my mind, where are my slides? Oh, they're there. The most basic rule of business is no nature, no business. So I'm going to run through the basics of climate change in record-breaking pictures. As we heard this morning, and you all know, climate change threatens everything and everyone we love. Every one of these pictures is a record breaker. I had to add this because, as you know, 2 weeks ago, India had its highest temperature ever recorded, 51 centigrade, 125 Fahrenheit. 13 out of 15, the highest monthly temperatures in the world, recorded in the last year. The fires in Alberta, I don't have to say anything about most of these. The South African fire, there's not much to say. This is Lake Chad. This is sort of interesting because most people in the West don't know about this. 30 million people depend on Lake Chad for water. It has shrunk 90% in the last 50 years. The countries that depend on it are Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Niger. And 30 million climate refugees may be walking across Africa from these countries. That can't be good. These are heat and wildfire records in Australia. This is my hometown, New York City, after Hurricane Sandy. Now, this is an interesting story. In Thailand in 2011, does everybody remember those floods where the country was underground for 6 months? Terrible flood, but the real cause of that flood was deforestation. The reason why the water did not go down is that the topsoil was gone. Now, this was deforestation that had happened largely 10 and 15 years earlier. What were the ramifications of that? The factory parts that produce parts for Toyota and Honda were not able to function, and for 9 months there were unemployed workers, tens of thousands of them in Kentucky, Singapore, and the Philippines. And Toyota lost almost 2% of its annual output because of deforestation from 15 years earlier. So that deforestation not only contributed to climate change, but it had a huge economic ripple in the long term. This is Brazil. You can see that does not belong as it is. And here are the Himalayan glaciers. So in less than 100 years, they are losing their water. They're losing the glaciers. 1.5 billion people depend on this water in countries like India, Pakistan, and China. I, again, do not have to say the political stability at risk in these places is obvious. So I think it is time to yell fire in a crowded theater. And I am yelling fire, and this is not a false alarm. However, you're the firemen. Who are the bravest people we all know? Firemen. They run into buildings and they save children. Who are the bravest doctors we know? Médecins Sans Frontières, when the Doctors Without Borders go to war zones and save people in horrible situations. Here's the deal. You are the firemen. You are the people who can save these children, and we're going to talk about how. Because I know all of you want to. Our planet, our power. Here's some of what you've already done and some of what you can do. The Paris Climate Accord. It was a phenomenal achievement. 195 countries signed. Thousands of businesses helped make it happen. Now, this accord is not enough. This accord was a signal to the world, but it needs you to do a lot more radical cooperation because we are not on course from this accord yet to avert what is a catastrophic situation. For me, saving the creatures, this was when I first saw the Greenpeace boats going between the whales and the whalers, I thought, I'm with them. And I have been with them ever since I saw it. For me, these are people who are brave. They are firemen for me. Saving the forests. Here is a multinational corporation, Unilever. About 6 years ago, Unilever created a sustainable living plan where they look to measure their social and environmental performance along with their financial performance. They are working very hard to transform all their sourcing. They are not perfect. They have a long way to go, but they are serious. I mean, I work with them. I know how serious they are. They are trying to save the world's forests. Okay. This number, 2008, 3,000 of the largest public companies caused $2.15 trillion of environmental damage. Does anybody want to guess who calculated this number? It wasn't Greenpeace, promise. Anybody? There you go. So for me, this is extraordinary. This is courage from KPMG. Their antagonist, every one of, as you all know, every one of those 3,000 companies is a KPMG current or prospective client. They had the courage to create these numbers because they want to help redefine profit. To me, that is one big bravo. Same with Puma. Here is Puma, and you can see there is a theme here. Puma counted the cost of their environmental degradation. And they did this with KPMG's biggest competitor, Price Waterhouse. And look what they found. It cost them 72% of their profit. This is why we have to change the rules of business. You don't want to punish Puma for trying to do the right thing. You want to incentivize them to do the right thing. That is how we will harmonize the rules of business with the laws of nature. Here's another example of phenomenal radical collaboration. The Green Schools Alliance is about 25 of the largest school districts in the United States. They are working together on purchasing, renovating buildings, waste management, water management. This involves kids, teachers, schools, cities, states. It is a way for the schools to actually protect the future of the kids. It's a gorgeous project, and it is completely a radical new form of collaboration to help us fight climate change. Now, this is an example that will probably surprise you. When I was Greenpeace Solutions Director, we had a big campaign to eliminate HFCs, which were the refrigeration chemical that the chemical industry brought after CFCs were banned by the Montreal Protocol. So we gave a few companies a big headache, and to their credit, they came to the table. That was Coke, Pepsi, Unilever in the beginning. And we then said to them, you can change your refrigeration systems to eliminate HFCs, which they committed to do. And then we said, okay, well, let's change the whole consumer goods industry. And they said, okay. So we worked with them for almost a decade, and it ended up where we worked with the Consumer Goods Forum, 400 of the world's largest consumer brands and retailers. And with that, they committed to eliminate HFCs from their refrigeration technologies. This will eliminate 1% to 2% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions over the next 40 years. And that's because radical collaboration between Greenpeace and some big multinationals. That's what's possible. So in all of your businesses, I don't know what they are, but I would love to talk with you. It is possible to do what feels impossible. If Greenpeace and 400 multinationals can work together, you can work with anyone, right? Yeah? So here's another way to look at nature for solutions. I don't know if any of you have ridden on the bullet train in Japan, but it's a wonder. The only problem is when it first came out, it was causing sonic booms. So every time it came out of a tunnel, there was this huge sonic boom which nobody was happy about, and it was destroying the infrastructure. The chief engineer of Japan Railway was an avid bird watcher, and he noticed that when the kingfisher boom into the water to get fish, there was like nary a splash. So he thought, I wonder if it's because of the shape of the beak. Maybe we should try that on the train. They did. And guess what? Not only did it end the sonic boom, it increased the energy efficiency by 15%. So it saved money, and everybody was happy. And this is because he looked to nature for a solution. Here's another example. Everybody wants to make money, right? Well, S&P did a measurement of those investors that were looking at climate change as a risk and were avoiding it. They had an 18% higher ROE and 67% higher than companies in a specific sector that were not looking at, not trying to avert climate risk. Money, make money, do the right thing. Fairly straightforward. So here's some other big companies you've probably heard of. Facebook, Google, and Apple. When Greenpeace first approached them, they cursed us a lot. We cursed them, you know, we did that little thing. And then, very shortly, we sat down with them and urged them to move to 100% renewables, which they are all doing now. And now there is a great collaboration that not only includes their work on renewable energy in themselves, but as advocates. So this is an example of a campaign in North Carolina where the government of North Carolina, those who are an American know recently they have some other problems equally troubling. You're all familiar with those. I guess they need maybe a new state senate. Anyway, they also tried to stop people from putting solar on their roofs. They did, and so Greenpeace and many other enviros and Facebook, Google, and Apple lobbied the North Carolina state government. But my favorite piece of this radical collaboration was that the Sierra Club and the Tea Party worked together to lobby. Yo, right? Yo. So this is my framework. I think this is the full solution. Number one, this is how we're going to redefine profits. Pollution can no longer be free. Number two, the long view must guide all decision making. And number three, government plays a vital role. This encompasses almost everything. And I call it the nature means business framework. And this is method, and this is like the total package. They are a company that looks to sourcing and product and packaging at the lowest end of the impact. They are doing long-term remediation of brownfields in this new factory outside of Chicago. They have a green farm that is supplying millions of dollars of food for local grocers and neighborhoods, and it is government incentives that made it all possible. Why do I have them here? Well, I love them. But two other reasons. Number one, it's a great quote. This is from the movie about the whales. But what I really love about Star Trek is, number one, their ambition is amazing, right? Go where no one has gone before. Okay, I'm in. But the second thing is their humility is unbelievable. What is the prime directive? I know I see a lot of guys here. What's the prime directive? Anyone want to say? Do not interfere with other planets, culture, environment, or history. I'm in. In addition, you want to talk about radical collaboration? The Federation and the Klingons? Hey, right? That means we can work together to solve our problems. I just want to end, I don't know, radical cooperation is the antidote to climate chaos. And this is how we will support the 7 billion souls we travel with on our abundant and beautiful planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That was great. That was great. The Sierra Club and the Tea Party. The Federation and the Klingons. We've discovered through the Kin Catalyst that you heard about yesterday that we have to bring the Federation and the Klingons together. But when you're bringing the Federation and the Klingons together, you're not bringing the Federation and the Klingons together. You're bringing specific people within the Federation, and you're bringing specific people within the Klingons together. And so we have to find people like Amy who cross between these realms and can communicate and understand what an ROE even means. And we have to find those people at corporations that want to see this change happen, that are thoughtful and constructive and can make it occur.